Welcome back to the Dynasty Arsenal podcast, episode 26. This time it is 26.
For real this time.
I said 26 last week and it was 25. So I missed our quarter century episode, which is unfortunate, but we're on our way. 25 episodes. We're in the we are podcasters now. That's how it works, I think. That's what they say.
Yeah, 25, we're officially panicking all of our life decisions, having a quarter life crisis.
Yeah.
I'm just got out of college. We're stressing out.
Mm-hmm. No, this is good. Yeah. I'm Sammy Stacks, joined as always by my good friend and co-host Tags. And Tags, the free agency has cooled off. We've seen pretty much all of the major moves that we're probably going to see. This morning, Jaylen Waddle was traded, so we'll get into that super quick. But other than that, free agency has passed. We got the draft in about 5 or 6 weeks here. So now what we're going to do before the draft is we are going to basically update our positional rankings. So we're going to go through quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends for Dynasty Fantasy Football, and basically just go through how we are ranking these guys currently at this point in the offseason. The tiers. We're also going to include the rookies. So today on the quarterback episode, we're going to talk about where Fernando Mendoza falls into these tiers. We'll talk about any other quarterbacks if any of them manage to crack our top 24.
Right after Mendoza, you're like, and the rest of the quarterbacks.
The rest of the quarterbacks. Ty Simpson could still be a first-round pick, but even if he is, I don't know if he's in my top 24. We'll have
I don't
to see.
think he is.
But with the Jaylen Waddle trade, which happened this morning, my first reaction was I was floored that the Dolphins got a first-round pick. And
plus
a third. Yeah, exactly. They swapped fourths, I think.
Insane.
An insane price. I think maybe DJ Moore sort of propped up this price because if DJ Moore is worth a second, I mean, I wouldn't say that Jaylen Waddle is better than DJ Moore at this point. I think they've both been very mediocre for a few years now.
And it's so funny because you think of like, well, Waddle has like the age advantage. So like clearly they're deceptively old to be younger, right?
Yeah,
nope.
Yeah.
They're like
27.
Almost the same age.
He's 20. He's a year younger than DJ Moore. So the Broncos, I think this is good for Bo Nix. Bo Nix gets another weapon. I think when healthy, Waddle is still very talented. And obviously Tua is very limited in the downfield aspect of his game, right? And so I don't necessarily think Waddle had all of the opportunity to produce to his full potential over the past few years. That opportunity will be there in 2026. I think once we get to the wide receiver episode, it'll be interesting to see where Waddle falls now because I definitely prefer him for Dynasty on the Broncos than I do on the Dolphins.
Same here.
I don't know if it's a huge jump. I haven't really had time to fully think about it. This only happened a few hours ago. But I think this is good for Bo Nix. I think this is probably not great for Courtland Sutton. He kind of had that wide receiver room all to himself before Waddle moved there. And now, if anything, it just muddies the waters.
I'm curious. I honestly am not too concerned about Sutton because he plays his own role. He plays the big body receiver that he wins on the outside. I don't think Waddle cuts into that production, if any. Like I think it's more of a hit to Mims and Franklin because
so it's more like it takes all of their targets, gives them to Waddle, and then Sutton doesn't really change much.
Yeah, I don't think Sutton is really gonna take a huge step down. He might take a tiny bump, but overall he just plays such a different position than Waddle does.
Yeah, any target competition being added should theoretically project for his targets to decrease, I think. Even if it's a different role in the offense. We'll also see, they could still, I think they're getting mocked Eli Stowers a ton, like in the second round. Obviously, they don't have their first round pick now.
Yeah, after Ingram never really played out to be the hyped up Joker weapon that they were expecting.
Tags, I think I'm over this whole Joker thing.
Same, though.
It's so, I'm like, I don't even care. Sean Payton lives in his own world, man. Drafting RJ Harvey in the second round, setting a first for Jaylen Waddle. It's just,
and he loves Dobbins, so
yeah,
all of it makes sense. All of it makes total sense.
Giving Dobbins $10 million a year when Tyler Algier gets $625. He's doing his own thing over there in Denver.
Yeah, so I'm like, I do think they're a hot spot for a tight end because I would love a Stowers to go there, but Yeah, this move kind of seems to me that he's less confident in Mims and Franklin being the diverse weapon he's wanting there.
Yeah.
But I think Sutton will be fine.
I do think that Sean Payton kind of like he values guys in their specific roles more than maybe other coaches. Like, I think that he fully believed that RJ Harvey being this pure pass catching weapon, I think he believed that that was worth a second round pick. And he doesn't necessarily think that I'm going to draft him and he's going to grow into something else. You know what I mean? And I think Marvin Mims is kind of similar in that way. Like, he's perfectly fine with Marvin Mims being this gadget type of player, right? Downfield, you know, like he's fine with that. He doesn't need him to be more than that. And yeah, Sean Payton is just he's a smart guy, but he does things in his own little way. And
Sean Payton's world, and we're all just living it.
Exactly. But there was a few other pieces of news that we didn't get to last week that happened like right after we recorded. Daniel Jones signed an extension. Kyler Murray signed with the Vikings. Those are the two big ones. And because today is the quarterback show, we will get into them. We don't need to hash it out right now because we will talk about. I imagine we'll talk about both of those players today. But Tags, I think other than that, we can hop right into it. Yeah. So we're gonna go tier by tier. We haven't really coordinated or like matched up anything, so like I'm not exactly sure how this is gonna go, but we can sort of just jump into it. So my tier 1, my S tier, has 3 names. And these are the top 3 picks for me in a startup. And I really don't mind how you order them. And it's Josh Allen, Drake May, and Jayden Daniels. Is that close to what you have?
So my elite tier 1, is only Drake May and Josh Allen.
Okay. So
I've got JD a tier lower, which we can get into that tier once we kind of unveil our tier 2. My biggest concern with JD is that obviously the injuries are kind of becoming a factor. And also that team didn't really improve this offseason. Their receiving room is still very, very shoddy. And they don't have any real consistent offensive weapons to help out Jayden Daniels. So I don't feel like his core around him improved. Whereas I see Drake May's situation improved, Josh Allen's situation improved.
I think Josh Allen's situation definitely improved a lot. Is Romeo Doubs really better than Stephon Diggs?
At this point in his career, I think yes.
You think Doubs does more this year than what Diggs did last year?
I would hope so, because Diggs did not do much. It was
he was
like,
good.
I think what it is we could see their stats end up being pretty close at the end of the year, but Diggs has games where he just vanishes. Like he's a complete non-factor. I think Doubs is more consistent. I think Doubs creates a more consistent target and kind of safety net for Drake May rather than what Diggs was providing.
Okay, I get projecting that. Historically, Doubs has not been a consistent guy. At least this past season, like looking at his game log compared to Diggs, it's similar in terms of how much green and how much red I'm seeing. But yeah, I think that I would argue that May's weapons have stayed pretty similar. Maybe they draft a guy at the end of round 1. The Commanders could obviously take a big name wide receiver in with that 7th overall pick.
I think with May, the biggest upgrade is not the receiving weapons. It's going to be the offensive line, because there's no way they don't upgrade their offensive line. They're gonna hammer it in the draft. We just signed, God, what's his name? I'm already blanking. We signed 2 offensive linemen already in free agency,
okay.
And I think his offensive line is going to improve. And even if his offensive weapons stay the same, he finished as QB2 last year with a terrible offensive line and possibly worse weapons, possibly better weapons.
The easiest schedule in the league as well.
May.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that a harder schedule is going to hurt May. Also, I don't think the conversation here is May, because I have May as my second overall player. The conversation is just whether Jayden Daniels deserves to be in this tier or not. And I just think that, like, I think May could very easily have a Jayden Daniels year 2, where maybe he picks up an injury. Like, Jayden Daniels freaking dislocated his elbow.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict. You can't really project an injury because
Exactly.
Jayden Daniels' season was derailed by injury.
Yeah, for sure. I just think
we signed Elisha Vera Tucker, by the way, which should be an upgrade to our left guard or left tackle, depending on what we want to do with tiny arms. Will Campbell.
Yeah, I mean that'll be interesting. I just think May could easily see some year 2 regression. I'm not projecting it. You know, he's my second overall player for a reason. 23 years old, just coming off a QB2 finish. Jayden, just what he did as a rookie is averaging over 50 rushing yards a game. This is like buying Lamar at 25 to me. And I think we see several elite finishes at the position for Jayden Daniels, and I don't agree with... I think the market has knocked him down a little bit too. I'm keeping him right in this range because I don't think that a year 2 with a really struggling Commanders team as a whole says that he is not going to be an elite fantasy quarterback going forward. They missed Terry McLaurin for a lot of this season, right? The running game was very, very bad. Now, I would worry about the running game in 2026 as well, because right now it's Rashad White and Bill.
Even with Jeremiah Love?
Well, that's the thing. If it's Jeremiah Love, okay, great. Like that sort of, we talked about that a few weeks ago. That, you know, the potential of that running game is the ceiling doesn't exist for that. You know what I mean? If the Titans don't take him at 4, obviously there's a chance for that to happen. I do think JD still belongs in this tier because I don't think it's unrealistic to say that he could finish above Drake May this year. And because that's the case, and because he's, you know, age isn't a factor with these two guys because they're both so young, and because we've seen it from JD before, that's why I have him still up here.
Yeah, to me, JD just presents a little bit more of a injury risk, and that a little bit more hesitation in the risk, plus the fact that they haven't upgraded anything around him, is what kind of bumps him down to a tier 2. But like, he's leading tier 2 fairly easily.
He's your QB3, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just a tiny difference of the tier there. But we can move into tier 2, which for you starts with Jayden Daniels. Yep. And then, why don't you go ahead and list who else you have alongside
my
him?
tier 2 is Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I also have Lamar and Caleb in tier 2. And I have 2 other names joining them. I also have Burrow and Jalen Hurts in here.
Interesting.
So I have Lamar as my QB4. You have Caleb as QB4?
I have Caleb as QB4. That is correct.
Okay. So, I have Lamar, Burrow, Caleb, and Hurts all in this tier. I have them all as like late first round picks in a startup. I think that Lamar's an interesting conversation because obviously this past season was the worst of his career by a mile. He dealt with some injuries, but also averaged in a 4-point per passing touchdown format, 16.5 points per game. This QB 17 in points per game on the season. The rushing production, like Tags, it fell by half. Since 2020,
it was a significant drop.
Since 2020, he has not averaged less than 50 rushing yards per game in a season. In 2025, it was 26. Now, how much of that has to do with the injury he sustained and the injuries he kept sustaining? Because through the first 4 weeks, he was himself as a rusher, right? 70 yards, 13, 35, 48. That's what we're used to. Then he misses some time, comes back, and the rushing production basically just disappeared. So this is also the type of quarterback who you would, like, normally we look at Josh Allen, who's about to turn 30, and we say 3-year window, I'm not worried, right? Lamar, smaller build, he's, probably a little more prone to injuries than Josh Allen, who's 240 pounds. So that kind of factors into me, but I do think that he bounces back in a big way when he's healthy for 2026, gets back to the rushing production. I'm just not sure that I can guarantee we get 3 years of elite production from Lamar going forward.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the question we've had for 2 years now, where we start seeing him get up in age, and we're like, what does the fall off look like? Because these kind of quarterbacks are so rare, and we don't really have a whole lot of history to know when their production is about to fall off.
Because the history is what? It's like RG3, who didn't last this long.
Yeah. Michael Vick, who had other situations and didn't last as long either.
Yeah.
There hasn't been no track record of a quarterback with his play style being productive into his 30s and later.
Yeah.
And we're at the 30 threshold this year.
So it is a little scary.
It's scary, and that's why I have him bumped down a little bit, but he's also Lamar Jackson, and I can't. Yeah. I struggled to not put him in tier 2. But yeah, me, coming off, it's so tough because he finished as QB1 and QB4 the 2 seasons before last season. So having it been a down year for the Ravens, how much that factors in, but only 349 rushing yards in 13 games last season is a concern. And so much of his production comes from the rushing side. So I just think he's almost one of those guys where I'm not targeting at all in startups unless he becomes too good of a value to pass up. If it's like early to mid second round and he's there, then yeah, I'm going to swipe him. But I have a hard time allocating a first round pick to him in startups just based on the fact of his age mixed with a production profile that we have no idea how it will age.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you laid out there. I think that it's rare to have a quarterback drafted this high where if you look at Lamar on your roster, you feel like you got to win now. With Josh Allen, I think that obviously you don't want to have Josh Allen on a rebuilding roster. That's not what I'm saying. But there's much more worry that if I don't get everything out that Lamar has these next couple of years, like if I don't maximize this window, I'm going to regret it. And so that doesn't mean he should be moved down in rankings, right? Like a guy like CeeDee Lamb is still getting drafted at the 1-2 turn, even though he's 27, right? That's kind of the vibe that Lamar gives me, where I need to contend if I'm drafting him, which is perfectly fine. You just need to be aware of that when you are taking him.
It just speeds up your team build clock and also limits you a lot in startups because you now can't take any upside prospects because you need production right away. So I guess that's a whole conversation for startup strategy, which we could have another time. But for me, it seems like if you're taking Lamar, you're so pigeonholed into a certain specific kind of roster build in those startup drafts. And I just don't want that in a startup.
Caleb Williams is the other name that you have in this tier 2 that is common with my tier as well. And I think Caleb coming off of I don't want to say true breakout, but just under 19 points per game in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. He's on the probably or arguably the most exciting young offense in the NFL. They've found the head coach. I love Colston Loveland. I love Luther Burden. You're a fan of Roma Dunze. You know, if we like all these weapons, we got to like Caleb as well. And he doesn't have the crazy rushing production, but he has a floor, right? Averaging over 20 yards per game. I think that could increase as well because he is a very talented rusher. I just think when you have this guy who very clearly he showed through that playoff run, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL, surrounded by this super, super young, talented nucleus of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Caleb Williams I think he should be a first-round startup pick, in my opinion, and a real, young quarterback to build a dynasty roster around.
Yeah, he finally has arrived, finished as a QB5 last season. And it's the Ben Johnson effect. Like, that's what happens when you put a good offensive mind and play caller with a quarterback. He did lose DJ Moore, but honestly, the offense is so stacked that I'm not really concerned about it. And DJ Moore had one of the worst years of his career last season. So I don't think they're dropping really in production from that move. I'm sure they're going to go out, add another person in the draft because that's kind of what they do. The real big thing is like, does Caleb take a step up from here going into his second season with Ben Johnson's system? Because there's another quarterback I'll get to later in this where I ranked him and then I kept bumping him up and up and up because they're going into their second year. They're going to be more familiar with Ben Johnson's system. The plays can be sped up because he's even more familiar with them and comfortable with them. I think he has potential to finish as a QB1 overall, especially with that rushing baseline of probably 300, 350 yards a year, which is what we need to be a QB1 overall. So I am all in on Caleb. I think Ben Johnson is a perfect pairing with him, and that offense should continue to grow and evolve going into year 2.
Well, like you said, with the quarterback one overall potential, it's because this offense is so good. Because the range of it exists in the range of outcomes that Caleb throws 45 touchdowns in a season. That is absolutely possible. Now, we know that Ben Johnson loves the run game, right? And that's what he did in Detroit. We want to try as much as possible not to just bring that over to Chicago and say this is what it's going to look like. Jared Goff is not anywhere near as talented as Caleb Williams, and the Bears do not have a Jahmyr Gibbs. Right? So this offense is not necessarily going to be designed around the run game. It's probably going to be designed around your insanely talented quarterback. And so firmly Caleb deserves to be in this tier. The bigger conversation is I have Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts in this tier as well. And you have them below. I'll quickly give a super quick spiel on why I think that they're deserving of this.
Yeah.
With Joe Burrow, I think it's very similar to Lamar Jackson. I think that your main issue with Joe Burrow is going to be the injuries, is going to be my guess.
Injuries and the lack of a rushing floor.
Yeah. So I think that the lack of Joe Burrow not having any rushing production, I think it's made up for by the fact that he projects to be top 3, top 5 in pass attempts every single year when he is healthy. And this offense is going to run through Joe Burrow. And he has 2 incredibly talented weapons at wide receiver, a very talented pass catching running back. I just don't see a world in which Joe Burrow isn't putting up some of the highest passing volume in the NFL when healthy. And I think he's a quarterback 1. He's probably a top 8 quarterback every season when he is healthy. And so I'm not worried about a 3-year window with him at all because he's 29 years old and he doesn't have the wear and tear of a rusher. And I just think that this defense is not going to improve in one off season. It's probably not going to improve that much in 2 to prevent him from, like, he was the quarterback 3 in points per game 2 years ago, throwing for just under 5,000 yards and 43 touchdowns. And I just think that is very much in the range of outcomes to continue. I think we should expect 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns from Joe Burrow every season that he plays a full year and is healthy. And so...
And I could see his game progressing to he's still balling out at 36. Like, absolutely. He has some longevity with how he plays.
Yeah.
And if there's any time to buy him, it's right now, because currently his injury seasons has alternated, and this is a season that he's supposed to be healthy. I don't make the rules. That's just what the tea leaves are saying. So he's my problem with Burrow and why I couldn't put him into that tier 2 is that he's obviously the injury concerns, and it feels like when he's injured, he's done for the year. It feels like there's never an injury like, oh, he's hampered, he's going to take 2 weeks off. It's like a calf injury that just like takes him out for the entire season.
He did get back this year when nobody thought he was going to. We thought he was toast, and then he comes back. He came back way earlier than we expected, week 13.
Yeah. My biggest problem with him, though, is the rushing upside, because He had his nuclear season in 2024. Like you said, throwing for almost 5,000 yards, 43 touchdowns. Was incredible that season and topped out at QB3. I don't think it's possible for him to finish as a QB1 overall.
Sure.
And mixed with the lack of rushing upside to give him a floor, mixed with the injury concerns, mixed with the age, that's what kind of bumps him down to that tier 3 for me.
I think it's completely fair. It's understandable. You know, we love rushing quarterbacks in fantasy football. And I guess I don't think he has to have quarterback 1 overall finish potential to be valued this high. I think that you shouldn't expect this sort of passing volume from any of these other guys in this range. Like, I don't think Caleb Williams is going to throw for 5,000 yards in a season. I don't think he's probably ever going to come close to that. Now he has the rushing to make up for it, and maybe the rushing is more sticky in terms of repeatable year after year than a 5,000 yard season. It definitely is. I just think you can expect really, really solid numbers from Burrow, and that means a lot to me with my first round starter pick, even if the number 1 overall finish potential isn't there.
The biggest threat to Burrow is the Bengals fixing their defense.
Which is such a funny backward. Look, the game that we play, it's like we're begging. The Bengals need a defensive player with that 10th overall pick. We are begging them to take Kenyon Sadiq. Please.
I'm just wondering, like, how much of his production is purely garbage time? Like, his entire season is garbage time because he has to score 30, 40 points for them to be in a game.
Well, that's not garbage time at all because they're always in the game.
So, sometimes.
Yeah,
how much of that production is in the second half when they're already down by 30 and the teams are just trying to limit the one hit touchdowns?
It's true. It's definitely they obviously give up a lot of points, but this is one of the most high powered offenses in the league. And I think even if the defense does get better, they're still going to be trying to drop 40. You know, like I think that this offense will go through Joe Burrow and that they want to live and die by Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Bengals don't have more urgency with Burrow about to be 30. Like, I feel like they have to have some urgency. Like, I get they have some of the best offensive pieces around him, but he can't throw for 650 attempts every year.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely not sustainable. The other guy that I have in here that you have a little bit lower is Jalen Hurts. This is purely me believing that what we saw from the Eagles in 2025 was absolute worst case scenario, and it was worst case scenario for Jalen Hurts specifically. The offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, he got fired. Jalen Hurts, over the course of his tenure as the starter for the Philadelphia Eagles, has averaged 52 yards rushing, 50 yards rushing, 35 yards, 42 yards. This past season, 26. Very Lamar-esque in terms of the rushing production falling off. We've known Hurts' entire career that he's not some elite passer, right? And that his production has come on with his legs. And this past season, he saw his scramble rate did not decrease very much, but his rate of designed runs, the quarterback run game was just not a part of this Kevin Patullo offense. And so the bottom line for me with Jalen Hurts is I think that it's former quarterback coming in as the offensive coordinator that I'm now blanking on. Mannion? Sean Mannion?
Sean Mannion.
Sean Mannion.
He came from the Packers, helped develop Love and Malik Willis.
So completely unproven as an offensive coordinator, obviously. That goes without saying. But I believe he's going to come in here. He's going to be working with Nick Sirianni, and they're going to look at how good their offense was for the first 4 years of Jalen Hurts starting, and then they're going to look at this past season when it sucked, and they're going to go, okay, what changed? And the thing that changed was the quarterback run game and it not being a big part of the offense. And they have a 27-year-old who can squat 600 pounds under center, and they're going to want to go back to what worked. And so I think that Jalen Hurts is in a huge bounce back spot. I think he's maybe the best quarterback buy on the market right now for contending rosters. I think we see a huge bounce back from Jalen Hurts in 2026. I think he's back I think he finishes as a top 6 quarterback this coming year in points per game, if not overall. And right now Tags, I've talked about, I'm doing the Monday night streams with Zach from Dynasty Land, where there are real drafts happening every week. Jalen Hurts is going, the earliest I've seen him go is the 212. That's absolutely
wild.
insane. It's absolutely insane for a guy who, for the past 3 years, has been a top 8 pick in startups.
You could start off your draft with getting Lamar at 112 and Hurts at 212. And it's not like an insane, like, that could happen in your startup.
And with the quarterbacks getting pushed down a lot this offseason, I've noticed some of the starts you can get are absolutely nuts. And yeah, I really believe in this Eagles offense bouncing back. Whether or not A.J. Brown is there doesn't really bother me, because I think that they'll add somebody if he is gone. They re-signed Dallas Goedert. Saquon is still there. I think Hurts is in a huge bounce back spot this upcoming year.
Yeah, reports from the Eagles say that Sirianni is going to be handling play calling for the offense, not Mannion. Just a heads up.
That is interesting.
So I'm not sure if
I'm supposed to feel about that, but
I'm not sure if that helps or hurts this conversation. He's going to have QB1 value regardless, just because that's in his skill set. But yeah, the noticeable drop in rushing productions this year is a bit concerning for me, because he dropped to 421 yards rushing this year. And his past 4 seasons as a starter, he averaged 694 yards rushing every year. And he also dropped from an average of 13 rushing touchdowns the past 4 years to 8 touchdowns last year. So the Eagles,
I think that probably has a lot to do with the offense being terrible and not getting to the red zone, right? And Tags, the scramble versus designed run thing that I mentioned, that was anecdotal. I have the stats here because I mentioned this in a video on my channel a few weeks ago. So let me just get to the right part. Okay, so the Eagles were 12th in offensive points per game in Hurts' first year as a starter in 2021. And in each of the last 3 seasons before 2025, they were top 8 in offensive points per game, right? So a top, 25% offense each of the last 3 seasons. In 2025, they were 19th in offensive points per game, okay? Their offensive EPA per play, so efficiency metrics, have been top 10 in every Hurts season before this past year where it was 16th. Okay, any stat you look at for the Eagles offense was worse in 2025 than any other year with Jalen Hurts. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith both put up their lowest points per game as Eagles in 2025. Literally everything was the worst it has been in the Jalen Hurts era. What changed was not his scramble percentage. Jalen Hurts wants to run as much as he did previously. From 2022 to 2024, his scramble rate was 8.25%. In 2025, 7.78%. Less than half a percentage point drop. Over the first 4 years of his career as a starter, he averages 47.5 designed runs per season. Okay, so that's the designed running game, almost 50 designed rushes per season. Tagged, in 2025, he ran 17. 17, a third of how much he was doing previously. So to me, also the fact that his raw passing numbers didn't fall off very much, as they have been. Obviously, the scramble rate didn't fall, but the designed rush attempts fell by over 60%. So the one thing that significantly changed for the Eagles in 2025 was Jalen Hurts' designed rushing rate. And then the offense was the worst it has ever been. So to me, it seems super obvious that you see that direct correlation and you go, okay, let's fix this. Because there wasn't any reported injury. Like, I can't see any other reason why he wouldn't do this, because he was also taking off and scrambling as much as he had previously. So I see the rushing production bouncing back a ton, unless the Eagles are the dumbest offense in the entire league and decide to do the exact same thing that didn't work last year.
Which, I mean, Sirianni's been in the hot seat for...
You never know.
2 to 3 years
You never
now.
know.
So
if he wants to keep his job, he should just listen to this podcast.
he should. I heard he's a big supporter.
I gave him the script. I literally just gave him the script. So,
but yeah, so that's they're all in tier 2 for you.
So my tier 2 is Lamar, Burrow, Caleb, Hurts.
Okay. I'll move on to my tier 3, sorry.
Go for it.
My tier 3, the biggest difference is I have Dart at QB6, which is surprising because I thought we flip-flopped on Dart and you overtook me as like being the Dart guy. And now I guess I'm back on board. I've got Dart as my QB6, Burrow QB7, Hurts QB8. And this is why I have Dart as QB6 is because one, dude's 22 years old. He's just a little baby. Finished as a top 12 quarterback 9 times this season. And the thing that was most impressive for me was those quarterback 1 finishes came against some of the most elite defenses in the NFL. QB 11 versus the Chargers in his first start as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then followed it up with QB 3 against Philly, QB 3 against Broncos, QB 7 against 49ers, QB 3 against Chicago, and then QB 4 against the Chargers again. That's a brutal stretch of teams and defenses to go against. And he did that without Neighbors, without Scattaboo for half of those games. He made Wan'Dale Robinson relevant. He was working with Theo Johnson, which Theo Johnson got his job replaced in theory.
Sort of. Yeah.
So I think he's guaranteed to be a QB1 as long as he's healthy. He has the potential to be QB1 overall with the weapons he has, plus the talent and rushing upside. In the few games he played, 487 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. I don't think it's realistic to expect those 9 touchdowns to not regress. But even if it does, he's got Neighbors coming back. He will hopefully have Scattaboo coming back. He might have Jeremiah Love coming there. I think that offense is just going to be so loaded. And I think he has the talent and the situation to combine to be able to have a QB1 finish, which is why I had to put him over Burrow and Hurts because I don't think Burrow or Hurts has the QB1 situation, like QB1 overall ability based on their ability plus situation.
I think that the only thing that Jackson Dart is missing is like the confirmation that he is a long-term starter. I think that he's kind of in the Jalen Hurts mold where I don't think he was very, very good as a rookie. Like I really like Jackson Dart. I'm high on Jackson Dart. He leads off my tier 3. He's my quarterback 8. I just think that the only thing that is missing is a track record of this, right? It's only one season. I'm not worried about people saying that they're going to rein him in and he's not going to rush as much. They're just going to teach him how to do it better. They're not going to stop him from rushing. I don't think his rushing production falls off.
It's one of his best weapons in his skill set, which makes him a game changer compared to a lot of other quarterbacks. So you're not just going to take that away because you're concerned about getting hurt. It's the NFL. People hit incredibly hard, and people are incredibly fast and strong. There's always going to be a injury risk, but there's a way to mitigate it to where he can keep that special weapon he has that separates him from a lot of other quarterbacks, but use it in a way that is smarter. You're not gonna be Scattaboo and headbutting people as they're going out of bounds. You're not gonna be driving your head into their chest. Learn to slide. Learn to not hold on for the extra half yard and take a huge shot out of bounds like he did in the Patriots game.
Dude, I remember, that going into that game, right? He was coming off the injury. And everybody was like, we need Jackson Dart, you got to chill out. And then there's just memes all over Twitter. It's like everyone, Jackson Dart, you need to stop taking so many hits. Dart, watch this. He's running for the first down. It's like I think it was 1st and 10. He goes he runs to the right sideline. And instead of stepping out of bounds, he tries to get that extra yard. He gets absolutely laid out. Completely laid out.
He got hit and he flew like 10 yards.
He did a flip.
It was comical.
Yeah, it looks like something out of a cartoon, literally. And I think that Jim Harbaugh coming in there as a stabilizing force, John Harbaugh, sorry, coming in there as a stabilizing force to calm him down. I think this partnership is really going to work. Like you said, all of the weapons coming back. Cam Scadaboo or Jeremiah Love, Malik Neighbors coming back healthy, right? They add Isaiah Likely. They probably draft a receiver at some point. And so it's wheels up for the Giants, I think. I do think Dart is the long-term answer here. I'm actually higher than consensus on Dart. If you look around at whether it's the expert average on flockfantasy.com or Keep Trade Cut, I'm still higher on him than consensus. You're sipping the Jackson Dart Kool-Aid. But so I have him leading off my tier 3, and then so if I'm understanding this correctly, you have a total of your tier 3 ends at quarterback 8.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one more guy. I have Patrick Mahomes in the Jackson Dart tier. That's my tier 3 is Dart and Mahomes. I think that Patrick Mahomes, he is coming off the ACL tear. We shouldn't expect him to be rushing as much as he did last year. That was a big thing that stepped up in 2025 compared to the past few seasons where he's been a lot worse. He was rushing for 30 yards a game this past year. I think that I have Mahomes this low. I know that you have him lower. I have him this low just because I don't necessarily know that. I think it's too unpredictable what we're going to see. I mean, we saw 2 really, really average, mediocre seasons from him in 2023 and 2024. And the fact that that is in the range of outcomes means you can't really trust him. If he has like a 23 point per game season in 2026, he's going to be vaulted back up. But there's also the risk that they just, try and go through the running game again like they did for 2023 and 2024. The fact that they signed Ken Walker kind of leans into that. The fact that we don't know how big a part of this team Rashee Rice is going to be leans into that. So I think Mahomes is a perfectly fine quarterback to have on a contender, right? He's going to, I think the range of outcomes is very wide for him.
It's funny because when I was going through where to put Mahomes, I originally had him at QB 9.
That's exactly where I have him, yeah.
And then I was thinking, I'm like, if we're doing dynasty values, if someone offered me this person against Mahomes, who am I taking? I'm like, well, I'm taking the other quarterback. And I did that 3 different times, and he ended up sliding all the way to QB 12 because there are 3 other quarterbacks that you didn't talk about that I would rather have over Mahomes.
I imagine they're all in my next tier.
I'm guessing so because it's like, yeah, the 3 quarterbacks that jumped him are my own tier right ahead of him. But yeah, he had QB 11 finish the last 2 seasons. I do feel like QB 11 is kind of his floor at this point, but I also feel like his season is like maybe QB 6. I don't think he has a QB 1, QB 2, QB 3 season.
You don't think there's a world in which he gets back to because there are 5 straight years where he put up over 20 points per game in a 4-point per passing touchdown format, 2 quarterback 1 overall finishes, 2 others in the top 4.
Not because of his talent. The talent is there, but because of the crew around him and what he's working with. Because you look at those seasons where he finished as a QB1, QB2, those top end seasons, he had in his prime Tyreek Hill, in his prime Travis Kelce. They had other supporting cast who were very good at the time. He has none of that here.
What if they draft Mekhi Lemon at 9th overall pick? Does that change? Does that get you more excited?
It would get me more excited. It would probably bump him up 1 or 2 spots, I would imagine.
Okay.
But I just think like they don't have the weapons to support Mahomes being a QB1 or QB2.
He was also phenomenal to start this year with no Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy hurt, 36-year-old Travis Kelce, and no running game.
But none of his situation has improved, except they get Kenneth Walker, which I feel like is going to hurt even more on his total passes.
I do agree. I'm just saying that I think that he is, I don't think that we would need to argue that he's the best quarterback in the league in terms of just pure talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, that puts him in a category where, and we saw it at the beginning of this year, he doesn't need the elite of the elite weapons to produce at an elite mark. And,
I think my point is I struggle in looking at that team. I struggle. Say he needs 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns to get in that QB top 4 range. Who are all those stats statting out to?
Yeah, no, I completely.
It's so hard to figure out like how that would divide up to a guy like Kelsey, who's on the brink of retirement every year, who has clearly lost a step. Like he's not the same player he was.
No, definitely not.
Rishi Rice, we don't know if legal issues plus injury issues, he has both of those problems. Worthy hasn't really developed into the dynamic weapon they've been wanting. I don't know. A guy like
listed it all.
A guy like Royals, maybe he steps up, but probably not.
But did nothing as a rookie.
So I feel like the only shot he would have is if they draft a Mekhi Lemon and Lemon goes nuclear to be able to support enough stats to bump him into like the top 6 QB range.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. There's some worry there. So then the next tier.
So my tier, since I got Mahomes out of the way, these are the 3 quarterbacks that I bumped over Mahomes after thinking about it. My QB 9 is Bo Nix. My QB 10 is Justin Herbert. QB 11 is Trevor Lawrence. And it's funny because all 3 of those guys feel so similar.
Well, you know what? Yeah, so my tier 4 is, so I have Mahomes in the tier with Dart above. My tier 4 is Bo Nix at quarterback 11, Bo Nix at quarterback 10, Justin Herbert at quarterback 11, Trevor Lawrence at quarterback 12, the exact same order as you. And then I do also have Brock Purdy in here.
Okay, Brock Purdy did not make the cut for that tier for me.
So I do have Brock Purdy in here as well. So I think that, I think these conversations can be relatively quick. I think with all of these guys, starting with Bo Nix, the rushing floor is nice. It's about 20 yards a game, which is decent. The offense is designed well enough. They just added Jaylen Waddle, where I think this 25 to 30 passing touchdowns a year is probably going to stick for him. He is definitely not a guy who has quarterback, 1 overall potential.
No.
But the quarterback 8 and 11 in points per game through his first 2 seasons, I think he'll be super solid. I think he'll be super, super solid. I think this system with Sean Payton is good enough where the floor is pretty high and the ceiling is probably pretty capped as well because Bo Nix is not the most talented guy in the world.
Yeah, I feel like every single year he's going to end up in the QB 6 to QB 10 range. It just feels like that's going to be what he is, which if I have him on my team, I'm stoked for that. I know there's some people who are not happy with Bo Nix, but like I'm looking at his production. I'm like, one, he was never touted to be a QB 1 overall potential. Mm-hmm. He was the last quarterback taken in that entire draft class. And fancy rookie drafts. And if I'm getting mid to late QB1 finishes every year, I'm stoked with that. He is like possibly the most stable quarterback you could buy right now. If you just need a guy to not lose you games.
And it's not flashy. He doesn't do anything super crazy exciting. He does have games where he disappears a little bit, but in this range, when you're getting a guy who has a solid job, he's going to be one of these guys that gets extended unless it goes really terribly the next few years. I just think it is very, very solid. Justin Herbert.
Plus he just got Waddle.
Exactly. Adding Waddle is really nice. More
just
weapons
got Waddle,
are always good.
Has arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And his situation has only gotten better this offseason.
Sean Payton might be a weirdo, but he can design an offense.
So I feel like Bo Nix is about as safe as an option as you can buy right now.
Justin Herbert is next for both of us. Very similar season to Bo Nix. He finishes just under 18 points per game this past year. Justin Herbert, his entire career, has been just clawing to try and get back to the elite numbers that he put up as a rookie and a sophomore. And it hasn't really happened. I know we've talked a little bit about how I sort of viewed this offense with Greg Roman as being very run heavy. And I didn't really think Justin Herbert was going to be able to continue his rushing production that he put up this year. On the season, he averaged over 30 yards rushing a game. And they talked about in the offseason wanting to get him more involved with his legs. I think that does continue a little bit. I think Mike McDaniel is just great news for him overall, right? Because you're adding an elite offensive mind who I think is going to be good for everybody, right? It's not only going to be good for the running game. Obviously, Omarion Hampton, RB1 overall in Dynasty, of course. But this is going to be great for the weapons, and it's going to be great for Justin Herbert. And he's 28 years old. He has the contract. It should be a good team. It's super. I don't know if he's the 40 passing touchdowns, 4,500 yards guy ever again that he was through the first few years of his career. I don't think the Chargers want to live that way. But he's in this middling late, back end quarterback one range is what we should expect. And that's very valuable.
Yeah. Under Harbaugh, there was a noticeable increase in his rushing production. Mm-hmm. I have one thought that is kind of holding me up on Herbert is that I'm having a hard time understanding if that, because he had 498 rushing yards this past season, after never surpassing more than 306 in his entire career.
Yeah.
Now, is that a design scheme increase in the rushing production, or is it a product of him losing almost his entire offensive line to injuries?
That is interesting.
Where he had to scramble to buy more time to get any yardage possible because his O-line broke down so quickly.
It'll be very interesting. I will look at. No, I'm not going to do it right now. But I'll look at scramble rate versus designed run rate. He's also not like a take off and get 40 yards kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like it seems like they used him. The design stuff would be a lot of like, okay, it's 2nd and 4, or it's 3rd and 4, and we're going to do a little bit of a rollout, and our 6'6", 240 quarterback is going to be able to shed off the tackle of this safety kind of thing. And yeah, I think that the offensive line being completely beat up, and the fact that they didn't really have a solid running back for most of the season because Hampton was hurt, right? They were running with Kamani Vidal. So I do think that probably went into it a bit. But I do think that, 20 to 25 rushing yards, similarly what we talked about with Caleb and what we talked about with Bo Nix, I think we could expect that going forward.
Yeah, even with those concerns about if the rushing upside was a fluke or not, dude, just adding McDaniels is going to be huge. This offense, if you watch the Chargers, God, it was the most boring, predictable offense imaginable.
Yeah.
Just having McDaniels in there to add creativity into that offense is going to be huge. So I think that alone was the only reason I had him over Trevor Lawrence. Because I love Trevor Lawrence also.
I have them back to back in my ranking.
I think Herbert is a little bit more of a steadier option with less, less room for fluctuation.
Well, because I think that the question, nobody has ever called for Herbert's job. Even though the Chargers have struggled for a long time, I think it's always sort of been not his fault. That's sort of been the wide thought about the Chargers. Whereas Trevor Lawrence, we've been talking, okay, is this guy actually good? And we can move into Trevor Lawrence super quick because he had an insane end to the year. Back-to-back quarterback 1 overall finishes in the first 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs this past season. After the bye, he was just absolutely phenomenal. Tags, after the bye week, he had 1 finish outside of the top 12. The consistency was insane. Liam Cohen really got this offense going. This partnership is one to be very excited about, I think. And that's why I have him grouped right in this tier with Bo Nix and Justin Herbert. I don't really care what order you have these guys in. I'm happy with all 3 of them. I'm also happy with Brock Purdy, who we'll get to. Trevor Lawrence, the thing is I don't want to vault him ahead of everybody else because I don't think that we should expect what we saw the back half of 2025. I think we should expect a little bit of regression from that production, but I still think he will be very, very good in this phenomenal offense.
Yeah, this entire tier, if I'm in a startup draft, I see these 3 guys still on the board. I'm just waiting to see who the last one is.
Yeah.
And then jump in and grab them. Finished as QB4 overall last year. Really, after that bye week, a light switch flipped. 26 points, 26.6, 23, 56, although it was against the Jets. But then he followed up with 38 versus the Broncos.
5 passing touchdowns against
24,
the Jets.
29, and then scored 27 points versus the Bills in the playoffs. Obviously pretty loaded on the offensive side. Brian Thomas Jr. seems like he's going to be staying. Travis Hunter, obviously his role seems like a lot of talk is that he's going to switch to defense, but I imagine there's going to be design plays for him. I love Jacoby Myers in the system. Parker Washington has emerged. I think it's a loaded system. I love Cohen. Brenton Strange did great too. Mm-hmm. I love Cohen combined with Trevor Lawrence, and I'm hoping that this kind of production continues into next year now that they have another year under the system, because to me, the late start kind of feels like it was because the system took a little bit longer to pick up and start playing fast with it than expected. So I'm hoping now that they have another year to really get comfortable with it and under their belt, that they can play that system even faster and be able to keep up that production.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously phenomenal prospect when he was coming out. And it seems like he's finally figuring it out with Liam Cohen at the helm. So I also have Brock Purdy here. And I think Brock Purdy's an interesting one because obviously insane point per game numbers this past season. He obviously was hurt, didn't play the whole year. I just think that having the long-term contractual commitment, which he does, in a Kyle Shanahan offense, he is going to be this sort of fringe back end. Like if you look at his averages over the past 3 years, his 3 main years starting, he's inside the top 10 each season. On a very good offense with very good weapons. I think the Mike Evans addition is awesome for him.
Yeah.
We should see some turnover in the running game over the next few years with Christian McCaffrey aging out. But this, I just believe in Kyle Shanahan, and I like having a piece of this offense. And Brock Purdy has been very, very good. And we'll get to the next tier. I can't view him similarly to those guys. I just can't. To me, he is right in lockstep with Nix, Herbert, and Lawrence. I'm curious to see how far down you have him, but as a I'm right in that range with when I see those four on the board, I just want to take the last one.
I think my biggest thing with Purdy is that he doesn't have the same rushing upside that the other 3 have. I like the system and the supporting cast around the other 3 better than him as well. Although he should get Kittle back early, which is what all the reports are, assuming there's no setback in his recovery.
If you look at the average rushing yards per game over his past 2 seasons versus Trevor Lawrence, it's pretty much the same thing.
Does he really?
Yeah. And Justin Herbert obviously had a huge jump this year, but previously it was about the same as what Purdy does. I think he's sneaky. He's kind of sneaky athletic. He's a bit of a sneaky runner, and I think that
deceptively athletic.
Well, I don't want to do the white wide receiver sneaky athletic thing, but I think Purdy is.
We can just label that on anything that is unexpected.
I think Purdy's. I think his rushing ability is a little underrated, and so yeah, I have him in this range. Is he at the top of the next tier for you?
Mahomes is at the top. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got Nix at 9, 10 is Herbert, 11 is Trevor Lawrence, 12 is Mahomes, 13 is Purdy, and then I have one other guy in the tier with Mahomes. So we
have the same top 13.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just ordered a tiny bit differently.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you have one more guy in that tier.
Yeah.
It's Dak, right?
No.
It's not Dak.
Whoa.
Let me guess.
You're not gonna guess it.
I feel like
we're gonna disagree on this one.
Who could it be? Oh, it's Jordan Love.
Nope.
Okay, good. What the? It's not. Is it like shocking? Is it?
It might be shocking. It might be shocking.
Is it Tyler Shuck?
No.
Okay.
Shocking.
Just tell me. Just tell me. Just tell me.
It's Mendoza.
Oh, I didn't even think about him. Okay.
So
no, that's fair.
I put Mendoza in the same tier as Mahomes and Purdy, but he is like Mahomes is clearly the head of the tier. Purdy is pretty close to him, and then there's a slight. Mendoza is clearly the last of the three. Like if they're all on the board, Mendoza's the one that I would like to go earlier than the other two.
Full transparency, I'm just looking at my rankings on flockfantasy.com, and obviously Mendoza is not on there. But me and Tags talked beforehand of we're going to talk about where Mendoza goes. So I had in my head where he was.
We called an audible a little bit.
When I was trying to guess who it was, Mendoza was not even in my brain. Yeah, okay.
So I'm curious where you have Mendoza.
So you have him,
I've got
QB 14 right at the bottom of that tier.
So my pros to him, I think getting Linderbaum is huge for them.
Absolutely.
Like Mendoza
for him specifically.
Mendoza
as the center,
before Linderbaum versus after, that alone jumped him up probably 2 to 3 spots. Huge upgrade on the O-line. There was a lot of talk about how Linderbaum is going to help Mendoza because he's going to be handling all of the blocking assignments. So Mendoza does not have to worry about, hey, this is the Mike linebacker, this is the Mike, and shifting the line at all. That's all going to be on Linderbaum so that Mendoza can just work through the pre-reads, reading the defense, calling any audibles, any hot routes, and then running the offense. So that takes a lot of like stress off of the rookie's plate. Combined with the fact that he's what is or one of the best centers in the league. He's elite. It's going to help that O-line so much. And then I think Bowers is a phenomenal receiving threat for a rookie quarterback. Gives him a lot of easy targets that are going to be short to mid-range over the middle. And that's going to be his safety net. And you can't have a better safety net than Bowers. Genty is a great receiving threat. We have to compliment Genty, or else the people are going to be in the comments upset about it. Genty is a great receiving threat. The rushing potential should take a lot of stress off Mendoza. And I expect they add more receivers in the draft. I don't think this is going to be.
They need a one.
They
at
need
the wide
a
receiver
one
position.
But when I was viewing him in this tier, I was looking at him. I was looking at Goff, Jeremiah Love, Stroud, all those quarterbacks. I think Mendoza has more of a rushing upside than them. I could see him being in the 300 plus yard rushing every year, which gives him a safer floor than I think a guy like Jordan Love would have. And I kind of see him developing into a Bo Nix type of player where he lingers around the QB6 to QB12 range every single season.
Yeah, I think that's all very fair. Here's where I would have him. Okay, so the beginning of my next tier, which would be tier 5, I would go Dak at QB 14, and then I think Fernando Mendoza is right behind him at QB 15. And I think that those two guys, I love how I really like that they're interchangeable for me. I think it makes a lot of sense because they are completely opposite ends of dynasty roster building construction. Right? Dak is the perfect contending quarterback to have on your roster. Mendoza, full rebuild, right? So with Mendoza, I think that the situation that he is coming into is great, right? You know who else had a phenomenal situation as a first-year quarterback? Caleb Williams. Who was the better prospect? Probably Caleb Williams. And just dysfunctional coaching, even though the weapons were incredible, it just doesn't always go well. Right? Look at Cam Ward's rookie season. The situation in Tennessee was not nearly as good as what Mendoza is coming into, I don't think. But there's always that risk with the unknown. And so it's so hard to value these 101 quarterbacks very high. But I do have him as QB 15. And in this tier, after Dak and Mendoza, I will have Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and Tags, you're gonna Kyler Murray.
Oh, come on. We're gonna fight because I already told you Kyler is not even in my top 24.
Which is insane.
So we'll get through this list because we kind of need to scoot a little bit.
Yeah, we said I was worried that we weren't going to be able to fit.
We gotta save time for the Kyler Murray discussion after we go through our top 24. But yeah, dude, this next tier is huge. My tier 6 is Goff, Dak. Goff is 15, Dak is 16, Stroud at 17, Love at 18, Baker at 19, and that's my
Stroud
tier,
over Love
tier
is
6.
Hot.
And we'll talk about it. Starting from the top, like where did you have Jared Goff?
Jared Goff's my quarterback 17. So him, Jordan Love, and Baker Mayfield are back to back to back.
Okay, interesting. So I've got Love and Baker quite a bit lower than you by a few spots.
I have Love at quarterback 15, Baker at 16, and Goff at 17. So I just think that these are all vets who are probably going to give you quarterback 12 to 18 in points per game finishes. They're good quarterback 2s. They should be good quarterback 2s for the next 3 years. You probably don't want them on a rebuilding roster, but they're solid. And I just think that there is a lot of value to having solidity at that quarterback 2 position. And I think that's what they give you. Dak, I think I have ahead because he has that more year-to-year upside, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've got Love and Baker 3 spots behind where you have them. Going from Goff, dude, he's just like every year he's you need to buy this guy because he's so solid. He's going to finish as a QB1 every season. QB9, QB6, QB7, QB10. Those are the past 4 years of his finish in Dynasty. He's got a loaded offense. Jameson Williams took a step up this past year, which we love to see. I don't even think he's done progressing. I think he has a lot more room for a ceiling. Laporta's back injury concerns me quite a bit, but he's still a significant weapon when healthy. He's got Gibbs. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown. All these guys are locked up for long-term deals. So I had concerns about Ben Johnson leaving that offense, and he completely put it to rest by finishing as QB9 after Ben Johnson left. I feel like he's just like a foolproof quarterback at this point. Put him in your QB2 spot. He's going to put up QB7 to QB11 numbers, and you're going to be stoked with that because you can buy him for like a mid to late first every single year.
The big thing with Goff is that he's going to play all the games, and he does finish between like 6 and 10 the past 4 every year with Detroit. Basically, just the averages just don't excite me.
There's tough plenty of games. Sometimes Gibbs takes over the Gibbs games. Yeah,
Gibbs takes over a game, and then Goff doesn't do anything. Right? Like he has. Just looking at this here, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on the year where he's outside the top 20, which isn't terrible. He's just super solid. Like you said, he is super. I literally think he's just like Dak light. Like he's just like a little below Dak because I think that the Cowboys offense is more leaning towards passing, whereas Gibbs is kind of the star of the show in Detroit. But I think probably if we looked at overall rankings, we wouldn't be that far off on these guys.
So I've got Dak at 16 right behind him. Mm-hmm. Probably my favorite buy for win now teams because I feel like he's another guy who just is always undervalued, is always going to be, you can always swap him for a mid to late first, and he's always going to exceed that value. My biggest concern with Dak is the whole Pickens situation. A lot of concern about Pickens holding out until he gets an actual contract. You predicted in your free agency offseason that they would tag him and trade him. And I think that's he was tagged. He just hasn't been traded yet.
Oh yeah.
But
it was a good effort for me though.
But I still think the possibility of him being traded is on the board. If they can't come to good terms on this contract, I think they're going to look at the trade market. And if Pickens gets traded, I have a lot more concerns about Dak because Pickens just boosted his production into the mid QB1 tier production.
Sure, but also in 2023, he was the quarterback 3 overall with like nobody behind CD.
What year was that?
2023. That was after Amari Cooper left. That was, I don't even know who the wide receiver 2 was. Like that could have been, Who would have even been there?
Who would have been the wide receiver 2 there?
Who? Yeah, tell me who was on the 2023 Cowboys. That was the year that CD was the wide receiver one overall.
CD wide receiver 1. Brandon Cooks had 657 yards, 8 touchdowns. Michael Gallup was a big name. 418 yards and 2 touchdowns.
If Pickens goes, the wide receiver 2 here will be better than Brandon Cooks.
In theory.
You know, like they'll draft somebody, right? So I just think that ceiling is there with the defense being so bad. It probably improves a little bit. But then Jordan Love and Baker.
I do think Pickens is the difference between Dak finishing as QB6 and Dak finishing as QB10 or QB11, which I think is pretty significant, though.
In like the likelihood, sure. But we literally saw 2 years ago that he was the QB3 with CD and nobody else. So it can still happen.
That was the year. God, wasn't Kellen Moore their OC? And then he got in trouble because he was scoring too many points and their defense was ass.
I think maybe, yeah. Potentially. Yeah. Mike McCarthy said that they wanted to play slower because they don't want to score as many points.
Yeah. I think that was like the Bengals-esque year where their defense was terrible. And so they had to score like 30 to 40 points. But anyways, where was Stroud for you?
So Stroud leads off the next tier for me. So really quick, Love and Baker. I think they're both kind of just whatever. Like Jordan Love has really not done much. We can talk Jordan Love versus CJ Stroud. I prefer Jordan Love only because his job is more secure. But they're basically the same guy.
Then Stroud?
Yeah.
No way.
How does the contract not mean his job's more secure? CJ Stroud, they were going to bench. People were calling for him to be benched at halftime of the Patriots game.
I mean, yeah.
And that to me, that does not mean that he should be benched. I don't think he will be benched. But the contract means something. And Jordan Love has the long-term, max contract commitment from the Packers, where CJ Stroud does not have that. And in reality, CJ Stroud, after the good rookie year, he has not been very good.
It's weird because the conversation around Stroud every time is they need to fix his O-line.
And they never do. They keep on just trading them away.
It just never does. Yeah, they traded their best O-line this offseason.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think Stroud is a good quarterback when he has a pocket to work with.
Me too.
We saw that in his rookie year when he had a serviceable offensive line. He's loaded with weapons. I like the weapons on the Texans way more than Love or Baker's weapons. Nico, when he's healthy, is great. They got Higgins and Noel with 2nd and 3rd round picks last year in a very loaded draft.
I think it's comparable to the Packers, and I think the Bucs is a lot better.
You think, who does the Packers have? They've got Watson, Reed, Wicks.
If you look at it as a whole,
as Kraft.
If you look at it as a whole, I think Nico and Kraft. Nico is better than Kraft, but I think as the number one elite weapon at their position, and then it's a bunch of whatever. Like Jaden Higgins did not do anything as a rookie. Jaylen Noel's a 3rd round pick. You have Matthew Golden, who didn't do anything. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed.
There's so many guys who just don't do anything.
Exactly. They both need a lot of help, and then I would say that the Packers' running game is probably a lot better.
Yeah.
But for me, mainly, the only reason I have Love ahead of him, honestly, is the contract. Because CJ Stroud, we don't have that long-term commitment yet. And while I think that it's most likely that we get it, if he puts more stuff on tape like he did against the Patriots, I wouldn't give him $15 million.
Yeah, we're in Stroud's contract year.
So they need to make the decision on the 5th-year option this offseason.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they will. There's no reason not to pick up his 5th.
I would be shocked if they didn't.
And then next offseason they can extend him, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit, but they are 11 spots apart in my overall rankings. This is not a
11. Where do you have Stroud at? What's his
overall? I mean, overall total startup.
Oh, gotcha.
So Love's my quarterback 15.
Stroud's so a whole round 19. Apart, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not a big difference whatsoever. Baker, I think he's just in the Goff and Dak mold, where you hope that he has a big season where he throws a lot of touchdowns. But he's probably just solid.
Yeah, my concern with Baker is that his situation was not great near the end of last year and has only gotten worse in the offseason.
Everybody was hurt, though. It's so hard to evaluate that Bucs team because the offensive line was banged up to heck. Chris Godwin's coming off the crazy injury. Mike Evans, is out with a hamstring, and then he gets knocked out on Monday Night Football. Mike Egbuka had a hamstring injury he was dealing with. The offensive line, like I said, was beat up. Bucky Irving wasn't there. Literally everybody
Godwin
was hurt.
was right off of that ankle injury.
And Baker himself hurt his shoulder.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to wash away the Bucs of 2025. Like, I don't know how much there is to take from this. It's why I really like Egbuka going into next year. Zach Robinson coming over from the Falcons. Good offensive coordinator. McVay. So, I'm excited for Baker going into this year.
See, I have only concerns about him. Losing Evans, and I think, honestly, as much as the fantasy community hates Rachaad White, I think Rachaad White was a valuable weapon to them in the passing game.
Okay, but you also said that Kenny Gainwell is some big fear. I should be scared about Bucky Irving because of Kenny.
Oh, you should. It's going to be Kenny. It's Kenny G season, buddy.
You said Kenny Gainwell is better than Rachaad White.
Yeah, which is
so then you shouldn't be worried about Rachaad White leaving.
I think Kenny Gainwell has a more well-rounded game, whereas Rachaad White terrible in between the tackles, which makes no sense. The dude is 6 foot 220. How can you not run the ball in between the tackles?
I don't know.
He just has zero vision. Yeah. His running back profile makes zero sense. But anyways, we're not talking about running backs today. I had a concern that the step back from this past year was because Cohen left. I don't think that concern has gone away. And he's losing Evans. He's losing White. I like Kenneth Gainwell going there. It's just there's so many question marks. Is Godwin going to finally live up to his contract? Is he going to be, now that he's another year removed from the injury, is he stepping up? What is Egbuka? Because started off the season as just lighting the league on fire and then just vanished for a lot of the season. They got Kate Otten back. Otten's, he's a serviceable tight end, but nothing exciting. So honestly, I think this will be a talk for the wide receiver episode. I'm most excited about Jaylen McMillan. I think he takes the biggest step up from Evans leaving.
If they don't draft somebody, I think that he absolutely steps into a bigger role. And I think that him, Egbuka, and, a veteran Chris Godwin is good enough. Genuinely. I think that I'm going to attribute a lot of what went wrong in 2025 to everybody being hurt. And I think that they come into 2026 with a clean slate. And I think that Baker's a fringe quarterback one again.
Yeah, I've got him as my QB 19.
So it's not that far off.
It's not far off. It's 3 spots off. But I just have a little bit more hesitation based on just the situation not improving, and he wasn't that great last year.
So I think, my tier, we talked about Dak, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. Okay. Then my quarterback 18 to end off that tier is Kyler Murray. Okay. You know what's funny? I think we are at opposite ends of this. I think I'm higher than consensus on Kyler, and you may not know this. You are much lower than consensus on Kyler Murray.
I would imagine. Yeah. That I'm not shocked by that.
So to me, this situation is he is the new rehabilitation project that is going to the best situation possible. I honestly view this pretty similarly to Baker Mayfield in the sense that he ends up... Do you remember who Baker Mayfield was competing with in camp that one year before he won the Bucs job?
Was it Kyle Trask?
It was Kyle Trask. And there were questions of who was going to win that quarterback battle.
Yeah.
Baker wins it. Baker turns into the Baker that we know now. I genuinely... Here's my bold prediction right now on March 17th. I think that as soon as we get to OTAs, there are going to be quotes coming out of Minnesota saying Kyler is our starter. This is not a battle. That's genuinely what I think. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is very good.
All the quotes so far, though. So
there was a quote. Literally, I saw today. I'm gonna have to. This is so anecdotal.
The Band-Aid one.
Yeah, that Kyler is not a Band-Aid. That the pitch to him was that he has the chance to be a long-term option here, not just a one-year Band-Aid.
Yeah, what follows that immediately follows that quote though is that it's JJ McCarthy's job and it's Kyler's job to basically take his job.
What does that mean though? Is it JJ McCarthy's job because he is the one that is already on the team?
Yeah, he's on the team, has familiarity with the system, and also obviously has the draft capital in the investment.
Let me ask you, Tags, you don't have JJ in your top 24, do you?
No.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure.
I've got them both out of my top 24 because...
Who would you rather have right now?
I mean, probably Kyler because the upside is higher. But I think if we're talking as an NFL quarterback, I don't necessarily think Kyler is that much better than JJ McCarthy. And so my concern was like, we talked about this in the offseason, like free agency prediction. I predicted Tua to go to the Vikings. I think you predicted Kyler. Did you not?
No, I said Kyler was going to be a Steeler.
Oh, that's right. My biggest concern was that Kevin O'Connell's system is a system that runs off of pre-snap reads and playing on time. Does that sound like Kyler Murray?
It does not, but what I'll say is Kyler Murray has done more in his NFL career. Look, regardless of scheme or whatever, if Kyler Murray is the better quarterback, Kevin O'Connell is going to fit his offense around Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray has done way more in his career than Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold did to the point of when they started the rehab, right? And I don't think Kyler Murray is bad. I don't think he was bad in 2025. I don't think he was bad in 2024. I don't think he got shadow benched. I think that entire situation with the Cardinals was an organizational failure. It was not Kyler Murray being a waste of the first overall pick and an awful guy to build around. He does struggle in structure. He is much better outside of structure. But the point of the Kevin O'Connell offense, I think, is to make the easy stuff easier. And just because Kyler hasn't done that in the past doesn't mean he can't do that now. And I genuinely think that the most likely outcome here is that he has a really good year and that he gets extended somewhere. It's not necessarily going to be Minnesota. But JJ McCarthy has not shown a lick on tape to be... JJ McCarthy can't hold Kyler Murray's jock strap. JJ McCarthy was terrible. Absolutely awful. Like, unplayable at times. He barely looked better than Max Brosmer. And so there is not a doubt in my mind that Kyler Murray is the starter week 1, and he is the starter for the whole season. And with the rushing upside, Tags, a year ago in 2024, Kyler was the quarterback 10 in points per game. He rushed for 572 yards.
I feel like Kyler is this year's Justin Fields.
No, you cannot, dude.
I'm telling you.
They are on completely different ends of the spectrum of quarterback play.
I think
Justin Fields sucks. Kyler Murray does not suck.
I do think Kyler needs to win the job before preseason because it takes time to reinvent an offense.
I agree with that. He's going to.
I just don't think it's that. Like you said, there's a 95% chance that Kyler is the guy there. And I think it's more of a 50-50 than anything. Because
what has JJ McCarthy done to give you any confidence that he could win this job? Not
much. But I think it's a dude that Kevin O'Connell drafted. It's a guy he's invested in. I think Kyler Murray is their break glass in case of emergency because there is some urgency for the Vikings.
Yeah, so they're going to play the better quarterback because JJ McCarthy clearly sucks and he needs to develop. They wouldn't bring Kyler in. Look, I get that I think the problem here is that it's such a low risk investment with Kyler Murray because Arizona's paying all of it. Because they don't have to pay him anything, we have no way of knowing what sort of level of investment they are putting into him. But when I think about Miami and I think about Minnesota, I think that Minnesota is much more confident that Kyler Murray is their quarterback in 2027 than the Dolphins are about Malik Willis, even though one of them got $1 million and one of them got $67 million.
Yeah.
So I just don't think JJ McCarthy has done literally anything to prove to us that he is at all worthy of this starting job. And I think that signing Kyler Murray, who is the best quarterback option on the market, kind of shows us that they don't believe in JJ McCarthy either. And I guess you're a lot lower on Kyler's body of work. But
I mean, for fantasy, it's wonderful. Like, we love Kyler Murray's production. As an actual NFL quarterback, his whole body of work hasn't been good.
Yes, I do agree that he has been not great at times. But he was also, like, he led this team to the playoffs one year. He was rookie. I believe he won the Rookie of the Year. Now we're a long way removed from that, and he's dealt with some injuries. But when we're talking about this range in the vet market where you're buying a QB2, like, we're in the quarterback 20 range here. He's my quarterback 18 overall. He's the perfect quarterback 2 for me on a contender. Especially one where you don't have a super, super solid option.
Wait, do you have Stroud after him?
Yeah. I think that there is, honestly, I think there is as much. I think that the likelihood that both of them are starting in 2028, I think it's pretty close 2 years from now.
I think even if they don't extend Stroud, someone's going to sign Stroud.
I don't think that there's a world in which Kyler isn't a starter next year, even if it's not in Minnesota. And this is not Stroud hate. This is Kyler love. Because I'm higher than consensus on CJ Stroud as well. But here's the thing, like, let's get into the next tier, because this is where I cannot get behind having my next tier, okay? CJ Stroud, Cam Ward, Tyler Shuck, Malik Willis, Sam Darnold. That goes to my quarterback 23.
My final tier.
Actually, with Mendoza included, that would be 24.
Yeah. Did you ever say where you put Mendoza?
I put him right behind Dak, quarterback 15.
Okay. So my final tier is Sam Darnold at QB 20, Shuck at 21, Cam Ward at 22, Daniel Jones at 23, Malik Willis at 24.
Okay. So you have Daniel Jones in your top. Daniel Jones is my quarterback 25. So that would be the only difference there. Let's start on Sam Darnold, because here's my issue with Sam Darnold. We are playing fantasy football, obviously, right? To win at fantasy football, you need to score fantasy football points. And that is not something that Sam Darnold did in 2025. He did not score many points at all. In a 4-point per passing touchdown format, 13.8 points per game. The quarterback 28 in points per game. Overall, he finished as the quarterback 14. Okay. No rushing production whatsoever. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl. His job is secure. I just think that if I have Sam Darnold, every single offseason, I'm going to be looking to upgrade him, because I do not want to rely on him as a quarterback 2.
Yeah,
and that's
but
why he's at the very bottom of my...
That kind of checks out for your QB 20, because that is the end of that QB 2 ranking. So if you can upgrade him to a Goff, if you can upgrade him to a Trevor Lawrence, send a Darnold plus something to get to one of those caliber quarterbacks. You're always trying to, but at QB 20, I feel like that's pretty accurate for where he's going to be.
If I'm ranking
he's
him,
got the most elite option possible in JSN.
Mm-hmm.
No more Kenneth Walker, which kind of implies that they're going to be leaning more on that passing game next year.
If I'm ranking him as a mid quarterback 2, I want there to be some sort of upside that I can rely on him on a weekly basis. And I don't see that with Sam Darnold, because this team passed at one of the lowest rates in the league last year. I don't necessarily think that changes, because although the offensive coordinator is changing, the head coach does have a lot to do with that. And the Seahawks are a team that they want to play really good defense, and I would imagine they draft a running back in this year's class. Like, Jonah Coleman was there on a visit today. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think a Jadarian Price makes a lot of sense. I just think I don't think Sam Darnold is ever going to be a guy who... He was the quarterback 9 in points per game with Minnesota. It's a completely different offense. And look, I could be wrong. I just don't see the upside that he is ever going to be somebody that you don't want to be rotating. Whereas with CJ Stroud, who I have ahead of him, with Cam Ward, who I have ahead of him, with Tyler Shuck, with Malik Willis, I see a path for all of those guys to be every week starters at the position.
See, I feel like this entire tier is people that you want to be upgrading, though. Like, if I'm looking, so my 4 quarterbacks in this tier is Darnold, Shuck, 5 quarterbacks, Ward, Daniel Jones, Malik Willis. All 5 of those guys you're ideally wanting to upgrade from. So I don't think they're that much different than Darnold.
Right now, their value, sure. Where their value is, yes, you don't want to rely on them going into 2020.
Darnold has like the most stable of them out of their situations, which makes me feel better about it.
I also think he has the least amount of upside because Cam Ward, I think there's a world where he develops into a quarterback 1. Same with Tyler Shuck. Malik Willis is a different conversation. I just think that there's a world in which a year from now, Cam Ward is a top 12 dynasty quarterback. I think there's a world where a year from now, Tyler Shuck is a top 12 dynasty quarterback. I do not see that possibility with Sam Darnold. And so I think he's a fine quarterback 3 on a contender that you're rotating, right? Maybe you have him and Cam Ward, and you're kind of platooning that quarterback 2 position, or a Kyler Murray, or a Bryce Young, like that type of stuff. You know, you got to construct your roster in different ways sometimes. I just think that I would rather take the shots on players who I think eventually could be guys that I'm super solid with at QB2. I don't feel like Sam Darnold has that potential.
God, I think I'd rather punt at quarterback 2 than have to decide between Darnold or Ward every week.
Yeah, it's not ideal. You probably want to be upgrading that.
That sounds God, that
but
sounds
coming out
awful.
Coming out of a startup, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? Malik Willis, though, I think is interesting. Because I think we both initially were like, let's hold him. Now they don't have Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah. Dude, so many rushing yards. That's to be the only way he gets production.
But in that, and how rushing yards are not going to hold onto his job. And this to me, like,
Justin
is
Fields.
the most, there you go, is the most likely outcome here that the Dolphins are terrible. Malik Willis scores a bunch of fantasy points, but then they draft somebody 101 in 2020, like in the draft in 2027. Like, that just seems like this team is terrible. This might be the worst roster in the NFL. I'm kind of thinking maybe, I'm not going to say try and sell him now because everybody just saw Jaylen Waddle get traded. But once we get to redraft season and people are taking like upside shots on Malik Willis because he's such a big rusher, I think I might want to trade him before he takes a snap.
I think I'm still in the hold because I think there's gonna be weeks where he finishes as a QB1 just because of his rushing upside, and those seem like the sell windows for me.
But what if he does the Justin Fields? Like, how are you going to know when to get out before it completely falls off? Like, he could literally, Tags, be scoring. He could be quarterback 3, quarterback 8, quarterback 6, quarterback 5, benched.
It's almost like, so it's tough because Justin Fields, you look at his box score and it's like, this dude was a QB3, QB2, QB4 for like, I think it was like 4 weeks out of the first 5. So for Dynasty, it looks phenomenal. I feel like these guys, you have to watch the games themselves. Does it look good or does it look bad? Because the fantasy box score does not tell the story there. And it's almost one of those where it's like, you're not going to know until you know. And by knowing, you're going to have to be watching the actual games and reading the body language, watching the coaches on the sideline, and just getting the actual vibe of the game. Because Justin Fields on paper was phenomenal last year, and then he got benched.
Tags, the game before he got fully benched for the season, he ran for 67 yards and a touchdown and was the quarterback 5 on the week.
Yep.
So
if you're only looking at the fantasy box score, you're like, oh, Fields is crushing it. He's doing phenomenal for my team. But if you watch the games, it looks terrible.
This is what I'm saying. As somebody who is recommending that you hold him, Malik Willis,
Yeah.
When do you get out? Because your plan is when those big box scores are hitting, I'm going to sell. How do you know when to do that?
As soon as he puts up 2 good games in a row.
Okay.
I'm out.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I think that's all.
Because that's what Fields' sell window was. Fields had 2 sell windows last year.
What if he's wait, is this so you're going to be watching the games obviously?
Yeah.
His actual play, what he looks like on the field is going to go into this as well. If he looks incredible, you're not going to sell him, right?
No.
Okay, so this is if he's if he's doing a Justin Fields, scoring a shit ton of fantasy points, but he looks terrible, sell him after like 2 good games.
Yeah, if he's scoring points and looks good, why would I?
Okay, exactly. Yeah,
I feel like the biggest concern is the value drop of him losing his job. And if he looks good and is putting up numbers, he's not going to lose his job. But if he's putting up fancy production, and I think the biggest thing was with Fields was that so much of his fantasy production came in the final quarter because there was so much garbage time. The game had already been lost by then. So his box
and he's
score,
just running around. Yeah,
exactly. His box score looked great.
I mean, I imagine the Dolphins are going to be down a lot of games.
That is true. But
it should be very similar.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that's because of Malik Willis. So I think like
true.
If you watch Fields, you know he's a bad quarterback. When he's struggling to throw for 150 yards, I think Malik Willis is better than that. But if there are signs where it's like he's struggling with the throwing game, he's struggling to even hit 150 yards passing, but he's still putting up QB1 numbers because of his rushing upload, that's when I'm selling. If he gets 2 good weeks in a row, didn't exactly look great those 2 weeks, I got to be out. And that's just something that's just going to take some discipline because...
And we'll be here.
If he's scoring points, then you don't want to really sell him because you're like, like Justin Fields was fun. He on his team, he was putting up like 30, 35 points for you.
I had a great time.
You don't want to sell that, but watching Justin the tape, you're like, oh, this does not look good.
Yeah. Justin Fields was like... No, I don't like that analogy. I'm not going to use that. Never. Justin Fields, it was this enormous high, right? That was really bad for you. You know? And he hurt me. I had Justin Fields in all 3 of my main redraft leagues. Absolutely. Like it obviously was a desert. I was telling people to buy him, and that obviously went terribly. But the one thing with Malik Willis, we will be here. And so whatever we're talking about with sell him after this point.
We will be your rebound.
When we think you should sell Malik Willis, we'll be saying to sell Malik Willis. So I don't think you should do it right now. I think holding him through the offseason is fine because his job is secure going into the year. But yeah, beyond that, I think we kind of covered everybody. We're going really long here.
And you thought this would be a short episode.
Me and Tags were talking on the phone earlier, just confirming what we were doing today. And I was like, should we do tight ends the same episode? Are we going to be able to fit 24 quarterbacks into
man.
Dude, and we're going an hour 40 already. And what we're going to do now, before we get into the outro and everything, or maybe here, let me think about how I'm gonna do this. Thank you everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. Me and Tags are going to attempt to do a live negotiation on the pod. And if it sucks, it might never see the light of day, and you'll never be listening to this.
You'll never know.
You'll never know this even happened. This footage and this recording will be...
I will delete it by the magic of editing.
It will never exist. Maybe it ends up being a short. I don't know. Like and subscribe on the YouTube. Comment. We love to get conversations going in the comments on YouTube there. We're also on Spotify and Apple. Rate and review over there. We'll be doing running backs next week, as well as covering any more news of the offseason. Thank you everybody so much for watching. We will catch you all next week.
Later.